What's up, everybody? This is Zach with the Nerd Cave, and I am joined along with the man, the myth, the legend, Cheeky Monkey Jackson.
You know, if you hadn't messed it up, it would have been perfect.
It would have been perfect.
But I know, but I actually like that name. It was what, Cheeky Monkey
Jackson. Yep.
Jackson. Okay, I could roll with that one.
Yeah.
I'll roll with that one. So.
You know,
last week's was boring. This week you came with the heat.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I just stumbled at the starting line, but you know. Derek, welcome to the show, man. It is
Thank you for having me.
Jam-packed week.
Yeah.
You filled this thing so full that the seams are bursting, and Shuhei is running for cover. He's running for
cover. Can't even put on your elastic pants. They're not going to fit.
Yeah, yeah. Don't even wear pants.
Hey, it's okay, man. In the Zoom era, all we got to see is from the neck up. We're good.
Yeah. Who knows? I might be in my boxers right now. Who knows? Derek's just wearing that polo, guys. Like,
I know. It could be cut off. It could be a midriff. You never know.
A midriff polo. Derek's got his belly button ring in this morning.
Oh God! No, it's a tassel. It's a tassel.
Oh, a tassel. Okay, even better. Well, that's what you get with Cheeky Monkey Jackson. That's really hard to say too. Cheeky Monkey Jackson, like saying it fast. You can get stumbled up on that. All right, guys.
You know, it kind of reminds me of that that acid trip of a Mountain Dew commercial with the puppy monkey baby.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. That's guys, you can.
I did too until they brought it back.
You can go over to patreon.com/nerdcave, support us over there, just like Brandon Hicks, Richard Newell, Dan. I almost said your Twitch name, not your Twitter name. Daniel Sanford, Brittany Harrison, Martin Sager, and Marilyn James. You can go over there, support us there. It helps us out a ton, keeps the lights on, and you get shout out in all of our streams and this awesome show, which you can watch live over on twitch.tv/nerdcavenews, just like the people are right now, or you can watch it over on youtube.com/nerdcavenetwork. All the support helps, from likes to follows to subscribes to going over to patreon.com/nerdcave and supporting us. It is awesome. I love the chat. It's like, viewer discretion. We are a family friendly stream. We do wear pants.
I like Murdoch's Nerd Cave Nerd News Pantless Edition.
I'm wearing pants, guys.
I know, me too.
I'm wearing shorts, but Derek is wearing a midriff polo.
So it's sort of family friendly.
You know, he's just worried about airflow today. Worried about airflow. All right, guys.
Dan's like, how do you know you're telling the truth?
Crop tops are popular. They are popular. As my band director in high school once said, if you show yours, I'll show mine.
Oh gosh.
Well, it'd be like girls wearing like crop tops. Just you didn't want to see our midriff.
No.
You're like put it away. All right, guys, let's get into all the video game news that you need to know. Resident Evil news. Rumor: Resident Evil 9 could be the last numbered entry, and Capcom would move to more self-contained stories. Resident Evil Village will bring back the merchant element from RE4 and will be called The Duke, like John Wayne. And you'll have to hunt animals. You're haunting them as well.
Ooh, I mean, it would fit the
game. For him, and it will exchange for recipes for permanent stat boosts. Mercenary mode will return to RE Village with new features. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness anime announced for July, and Resident Evil and Dead by Daylight crossover announced for June. And finally, Resident Evil 4 VR for Oculus Quest 2 has been announced. A lot of Resident Evil news because they had a big conference and everything yesterday on that. So,
yeah,
your takeaway?
So the like a lot of good things, like I know because they've said even before they admitted it, right? Like when they first unveiled it and they showed like the setting of it, I'm like, this is a callback to RE4. Then about a month or so later, they did confirm it. It's like, hey, this is pretty much like a successor to RE4 in different ways. It's a new trilogy, but it's different. And then bringing back the Duke, which the merchant is like the merchant, like he's like a big like a blob sitting there, like I call him Jabba the Hutt. He's he's pretty much the Jabba the Hutt. But having him, there's a purpose to going and doing getting these recipes for him for permanent stat boost is a good thing. It gives you reason to do it rather than just sit there and be like, do I want to buy anything? I think bringing RE4 to the Oculus Quest is interesting for VR. Obviously it's not going to be the remake. I read that. I read the article. It's not going to be the remake. They make it seem like it's going to drop this year for it. So it's probably going to be the HD port they did a couple years back.
Yeah.
Biggest takeaway for me though is RE9. They're gonna they've done trilogies before, and this is going to be the last numbered entry. I think it just speaks to like Capcom has been on the up and up for the last half decade at least, right? Like they used to have the title as Crapcom because a lot of their games were just so bad or unplayable.
Yeah.
So them on the up and up, it kind of just they know what butters their bread with Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, like all those series has brought them back to acclaim, and Monster Hunter World as well. So I think they think it's like, hey, everything runs their course at some point, right? Like you can only do so many numbered entries. Like, I mean, for a while they did spin-offs like Code Veronica X and other things. Some were terrible, like Umbrella Corps, god awful game. But I think it's a nice thing to them wanting. They know that Resident Evil is one of their staples, so they want to keep with it. But maybe not doing numbered entries going forward would be better for them.
Yeah, I think it's the not overstaying your welcome type thing. It's kind of wrap it up with this one, and then you can do offshoots. Like think about like WandaVision. Okay, it's like we're gonna do this many episodes, and that's gonna be it, and then Wanda will be back into the whole Marvel universe and everything. And it's like you enjoyed your stay with WandaVision, but now you get to enjoy her back in the regular MCU and everything. And I think so many times you look at Scrubs, they went on for too long. There was too many seasons. They kept like, even the last season, they're like, well, we want to do more. The company was like, we want to do more. And they're like, no, the actors wanted to come back. Or even look at Legend of Korra. It was like, okay, we're going to do one season. And it was really solid. It was really solid. And it was like, we need you to do more. And they're like, we didn't plan on that. And they're like, well, we need you to do more because we want it. And then like it just messes with things. So like having a conclusion and then you can do offshoots from there. Like there's nothing wrong with that, doing offshoot. So I'm not gonna play RE9. When did Resident Village is 8? Village is 8.
Yeah, Village is 8. So after this, they're gonna have one more in the trilogy, like RE9, and then that's it. Other than remakes.
Yeah. So we're gonna get this coming out, one that was coming out in May, and then we're gonna get one more after that. I played 7, which 7 was really good, but not gonna play 8. Not gonna play.
Yeah,
not for me. Not for me. Murdoch says, I pretty much stopped playing Resident Evil after 2. I understand that.
Yeah, a lot of hits or misses after 2. So
yeah, and the remakes are doing really well. Like the remakes, 2 and 3, and sold gangbusters.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was going to hit on too, right? It's like, especially like RE7 put them back in, like Resident Evil put them back on the map. But then the remakes coming out really just set it off and really created this, like, I don't want to say new fan base, but this new craving for the Resident Evil franchise, Yeah. So especially too, like I know 3 had its, was really done well as well, but 2 really set like that bar again for Resident Evil. It's like, hey, this is what Resident Evil was in its heyday. Like we want to create that again.
Yeah, and with 4 getting its treatment as well, a lot of people are going to be clamoring after that one because a lot of people loved 4.
Yeah,
I know that one's kind of was like the crown jewel until 7 came along because 5 and 6 was. So, curious to see how they wrap it up and everything, but I'm glad that Capcom is doing better and better, and that they have an actual roadmap instead of just we're just going to keep milking that old cow until that cow blows away.
I wonder when they're going to do new IP though, because they have to do something at some point.
Yeah, I'm curious as well. I'm not sure if they finish up Resident Evil, will they bring in a new horror game and to like replace it? Not who knows?
We'll see.
Who knows? They might take an IP from another company. They might license one that we're going to talk about later on. Who knows? Who knows? That might be a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the next story. Bioshock 4 could be open world according to job listings. And our last Bioshock that we got was Infinite. And I really, really enjoyed Infinite. It was a really good game. Great storytelling. The combat was great. I'm excited to see a Bioshock 4, but I don't know what an open world version of it would be like.
So I got the article here, and like the job listing is going to specifically target applicants who, quote, can weave impactful character-driven stories in an open world setting. The senior writer will also assist in crafting primary and secondary mission content, suggesting this new Bioshock will allow players to veer off the main path throughout the game. The role will be changed with assisting in the creation and execution of the core story, including the writing of dialogue and other narrative elements as directed. And I know it wasn't a true open world game, but they kind of already teased this in Bioshock Infinite, like, with the sky world, like going to different platforms. Like, I know some of it was locked behind where you could go in the story, but, it encouraged exploration and to go off the beaten path. Like, even one had that to an extent, but it was like more an enclosed area. Like, that was pretty much like more of an Arkham Asylum open area type thing, like a hub world. Infinite was more closely to, not on the full scale of Arkham City, but more closely to Arkham City in the terms of like letting you breathe a little bit more in the world.
Yeah, like I never played 2. I played 1 and I played Infinite. I love Infinite just because like there's a lot more exploration and everything. I'm not saying that they can't do an open world. I think, if they do it right, it could be awesome. It just has to have that kind of like plumb line of this is what Bioshock is, regardless of where you're exploring, regardless of where you're at and everything. Because like it does have a certain flavor to the worlds, even 1 in Infinite, totally different, like with like the people and everything, but it has that kind of like there's something off here, like 1 was more kind of like horror kind of feel to it, but 2 it was like that Stepford Wives kind of creepy, this is the perfect place, type.
It was like Get Out.
Yeah, exactly. Before Get Out was the Infinite Bioshock Infinite of movies.
Yeah. So,
but
remember when they? Me too. And Ken Levine not being there is going to be definitely intriguing because it's funny because 2 was met with criticism because it wasn't irrational proper. Like Ken Levine said, "Hey, I want to do something in the same universe, but I don't want to do a direct sequel to the first game." And 2K was like, "We want to do a sequel in that same universe, in that same world." So they got someone else to do it, which is why it was met with such criticism because it wasn't Ken Levine. So Ken Levine did that. And then remember when they promised that they were going to do a Bioshock on Vita and it never happened?
Don't get me started on things that have been promised about the Vita today, dude.
I know. The whole Vita was a promise letdown.
It's such a good
it was like the tech was good, don't get me wrong, but like the promise of it and the way Sony marketed it was just bad.
Oh yeah.
But Ken Levine not being there, I want to see who the head guy of production is this going to be. Like, if it's somebody new, I'll give it a chance because, like, hey, everyone has different visions. Maybe this one, maybe this one won't hit for the core fans, but it'll hit with a new fan base that'll love it just the same. But I hope they don't take the Ubisoft route where they're just concerning about fluffing up the open world just to give players an excuse to explore it and then forget to focus on the thing that brought you there, which is the story and the setting.
Yeah, I think you've definitely got to like be right there in the setting. You got to have the story. You know, even side stories that you could be doing, because there was side stories in Infinite and in the first one. Like I said, I hadn't played the second one. Murdoch said the second one was good, but it felt a lot darker. You know, like I know Adam Sessler is going back to G4 and everything, but I know he has worked with the guys that developed Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah,
I would love, like, I know he's not like a developer in per se and everything, but I would love to see Adam Sessler come in and be the head of this game, because it would be amazing. Like my favorite review of all time. I'm not even saying like of like this year or whatever. I'm saying all time is Adam Sessler's review of Bioshock Infinite. Like,
I remember
that man knows how to review games, but he's also a writer. So like if he was writing it or whatever, like I think it would be very interesting. So I'm curious to see where 4 goes. The open world thing, like it feels kind of gimmicky in my opinion.
Yeah.
But you know, only time will tell, and don't rush it. Don't rush it. Don't rush it.
Yeah.
Ever. Don't
make
don't
it
ever rush it.
a rush game is bad forever. A delayed game is good.
Yep. Exactly. Murdoch asks, speaking of G4, are they back yet? G4 is not back yet that I know of.
No. I want to say it's coming back. Did I read this year? Sometime this year, or was it next year? It's within the next calendar year. It's supposed to be back, but it's not back now.
Yeah. I think fall is like the earliest it might be back. I think
so.
I know Adam Sessler and I think Pereira is coming back as well. Kevin Pereira.
Yes.
And Xavier Woods or Austin Creed is his real name.
Yeah.
Is going to be one of the hosts and everything. Kind of like the head of it. So excited to see it. I did not expect either Kevin or Adam to go back, to be 100% honest.
Like especially watching, I don't know if you ever watched, like, I forget, Adam was hosting some type of like podcast show, or like he does his own show, and he brought Sessler on there and they talked about the G4 days, and they kind of both made it seem like they would never come back. I guess I think they meant if the old management was still there, but I guess now that they probably pitched the heck out of them coming back to them, like, and how things would be run, and that was enough to get them to be like, hey, you know, we'll at least entertain it.
Yeah. So like I think in their contract they're going to be very, very protected. But I watched that same show. Watched that same show, so I was like, they're never going to come back to G4. But money talks, and better management does a lot of good things. So I'm not sure what platform they're going to be running on, if it's their own. And they'll probably do some sort of Twitch, YouTube type deal.
I was going to say they'll probably do some streaming thing, if anything. I don't think they'll come back to like any like cable network or whatnot.
Yeah, because that's a lot of money to try to do cable network, and not a lot of people are on that anymore. So go to where people are at. This day and age. All right, guys, we're going to shift gears into our next topic. This is the chunky one here. A lot of PlayStation news this week. Days Gone and Sony bin news. Days Gone 2 is not happening despite first game being profitable. Pitch for the sequel is being worked on by the first game's director, set to feature large online multiplayer co-op and to be a shared universe. There's currently a fan petition to save the sequel at 15,000 signatures and rapidly growing. Also, Days Gone PC release set to be for May 18th will feature ultra-wide monitor support and unlocked frame rate. So let's do Days Gone first.
Yeah.
This is kind of shocking that Days Gone 2 is not happening.
Yeah, especially when, you know, because we know the first game, like, obviously a lot of their issues was pre-launch. Like a lot of the reviewers got early builds of the game to review, and it was a buggy mess. Like it was dead on arrival because of the reviews. But once it got patched, and once it launched, a lot of gamers like you and I already had like a fix. Like it was still messy, obviously, but it wasn't as messy as the reviews made it out to be. Like we got more of a polished thing by launch day, and I didn't know it was profitable. Like I thought, like last I thought I read it broke even, but I didn't think it was profitable. But them not getting the chance to do a sequel was surprising. And about the pitch, David Jaffe apparently hosts his own show. That's the former creator. He used to work for Sony, did the Twisted Metal franchise, and started God of War 1 and 2. So he's doing his own thing now. He interviewed the director, one of the directors, John Ross, who, by the way, both the directors, like John Garvin and John Ross, have left Sony Bend. I don't know if it was over the issues with this or if it was just like other things, but they're both gone. Ross confirmed reports that a Days Gone 2 pitch was made to Sony, but due to an NDA with his former employer, he couldn't confirm if the game had been canceled. If the lengthy, let's see, blah, 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 he revealed some details about what the pitch included, mainly the online mode, which would be a shared universe. The team reportedly wanted co-op in the first game, but had to make concessions and cut it out. This online co-op, though, would have been a secondary mode to the main narrative. Ross then confirmed that the plan was to address the criticisms of the game with a sequel, and highlighted that he left the studio due to personal reasons in December, not related to the status of Days Gone 2.
Yeah, this to me is like, okay, Sony is cutting the fat like big time.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, if you're not like being profitable and being very profitable are two different things. So
yeah,
they're looking.
There's profitable like Days Gone, and there's profitable like Spider-Man.
Yeah, or Last of Us or God of War. All of those are very profitable. So you've got like Days Gone, you've got Media Molecule and Dreams and everything. So you've got things that are. Looks like Derek is like face froze. You've got all of these things that look, a certain way, and they're not doing well. So Sony is cutting the fat on that. I hate that, it is what it is at this point, but we're going to be getting something different, which brings us to the next point about Sony Bend. Sony's Bend's new game features vehicles and open world, according to Jobs listing, reportedly starting working on the new IP in September 2019.
Yeah, so it seems like, because there were some other things I didn't put here, right? And just to touch on, just to go back for a second, just to touch on Days Gone 2 pitch. This when I first thought of like shared universe online co-op, my first thought was, it is interesting they wanted to have this in the first game, but I think with the way the game played out, it wouldn't have worked. But when I first read this pitch, I was like, zombie version of The Division. Like that's what it said to me, because of how the game and the resources are already set up. It would have been pretty much like a very similar thing, and I would have loved to see that. I know we're getting what is it, the day before, the day after, or whatnot, that online that looks like Division but in a zombie. We're getting a version of that anyway, but it's sad to see that not play out. But see, Sony Bend, their last game before Days Gone was Uncharted Golden Abyss on the Vita. And there was a report I didn't share that they said there was a moment where they were worried that they would get fused into Naughty Dog, and just they would like, their studio would like essentially like close, like how Vicarious Visions got absorbed into Activision. They were worried about that same thing when working on Uncharted Golden Abyss, and they did a great job with it. However, Sony let them do their own thing, and this was their first foray into the open world genre, because before that they were just the Siphon Filter team, which was a very critically acclaimed series, but they never done an open world, and this was their first at bat with it, because Sony basically just like that was the Sony that wasn't worried about blockbusters all the time. They're just like, be creative, just do what you want to, and Sony Bend did that. And it seems like even though they're not getting a sequel, this new IP, they're wanting to take another swing at the open world genre and see what they could do better.
Yeah. And I'm curious to see like if the PC release does well, if that changes anything down the road. They're clearly working on something right now, so they're not going to shift in the middle of this, but maybe after this game comes out, then it's like, okay, let's revisit the universe of Days Gone. That might be a possibility down the road, but it's interesting to see, like, as we go through all of these, like, we'll start seeing kind of a theme with Sony right now. And it kind of concerns me, because like we saw Sony really do something amazing this last generation cycle and everything. And now it feels like we're going in the opposite direction of what we've had.
Yeah. They're sitting on their throne now. They've got the crown, and they're just like, all right, we don't need to do anymore.
I don't know if it's a throne. It's more like a 5-gallon bucket.
Also true.
More like a 5-gallon bucket that's sitting on the laurels right now. So I'm just curious. Let's move on to the next bit of news. This is about Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog is working on multiple projects, but only one is getting the lion's share of the focus at any time. The Last of Us is getting a remake for PlayStation 5, reportedly in development. Remake is something for people to do while other things are in pre-production, says Jason Schreier.
Yeah. So my first takeaway was the remake, not a remaster on PS5, a remake, like Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 remake on the PS5 when that game's not even a decade old. Like I even put like already when I posted this article on the Facebook page. I'm just like, why are you guys rushing? Like, I understand, like, and apparently Naughty Dog has several things in development. Like, I think I read that they have almost up to 5 different projects in development. Like, they're working on the multiplayer factions for Last of Us Part 2. Supposedly they're doing another Uncharted game, a new IP, and now because apparently Last of Us, like, and we'll get to this later, this is going to our Sony concerns, but, you know, apparently a smaller studio, I don't forget if it was Sony owned or if they just came to Sony, wanted to take on this project of remaking Last of Us Part 1. And Sony said, we're good. We don't need another small team working on this. We want to have in-house by Naughty Dog. And I'm like, most remakes are done by small teams. Like, have you met Blue Point? Like, they just made 2 great remakes for you guys. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's such, and like, I understand Naughty Dog is their poster child right now. Them, and you could argue somewhat Santa Monica and Guerrilla are like their 3, like those are their pillars right now for studios to not do any wrong at this point in time. But why would you be this closed-minded and not take some of the workload off? Like Sony, like Naughty Dog can have consultants with the smaller team to do the remake to make sure it stays true to the original, but you don't need to put more pressure on them to develop this remake while they're working on other things.
Yeah, like, you know, it would be like, okay, we need you to develop a brand new IP. We need you to remake this game that you've already made, you know, a few years ago. And
that you just remastered not that long ago either.
Yeah. And we also need you to do this multiplayer part for the game that you just released. And we need you to just, you know, be working on random things as well.
Yeah.
And
make sure Uncharted stays relevant.
Yeah. And you can't hire anybody new. You know,
yeah.
Like it's so asinine in my mind, because like I'm not sure how much data is taken up by like assets and everything in this field. I can only imagine, you know, it's terabytes upon terabytes, thousands of terabytes for art assets to mocap to music to all of these different things. So it's like, does Naughty Dog have all of that data from the first one that they could just go back in and, you know, redo the graphics? Like, I'm hoping that they do, you know, but it's like a remake. Are they going to bring in the actors again? Like, how far is this thing going to go?
Yeah. Well, and you know, for the PS5 remastered of Spider-Man, they got a different actor to mocap Peter Parker from the PS4 version. So are you going to do that again?
Yeah, I'm not sure what their goal is here. Like, it just seems like a cash grab, in my opinion.
Yeah, and see, it's like I talked to you before the show. The game's not even a decade old. Yeah, and I mean, yes, comparatively to the PS3 version, which launched 8 years ago now, or roughly 8 years ago, it does look rough comparatively. Like even the remastered on PS4 they did a year later doesn't look, you know, could use some touch-ups here and there. But to do it so quick, because I told you, I thought I read something where they started throwing this idea around in 2018, like before Last of Us 2 was even out. It's like, why are you concerned with this? Like, I get it's a great franchise. The first one did out of the park gangbusters that you didn't see coming because you had just done Jak and Daxter and then Uncharted and then now this new Dark thing. So it's like, but why? What? It's sort of like Activision wearing it. It's like the opposite of Activision. Like Activision wants to bring fresh blood into their old IPs.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog's just doing it, or Sony's wanting to do it just to do cash grabs because that's a hot ticket item. And to touch on what you said too about being overburdened, and it got brought up in the article. That's why it said, that's why I put the quote, only one will get the lion's share at any given time. Because, Naughty Dog, they split up into two studios when they were working on Last of Us 1 and Uncharted 4 at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then it was sort of like Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy teams. Once, one person got done with all their work on one game, they just bled into the next one.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do that again. They said it was taxing. They said it was exhausting. Now, they're obviously a bigger team since then.
Yeah.
But they don't want to be in that foxhole again. They just want to put one emphasis on one project at any given time.
Yeah, and Naughty Dog is bad about crunch. They're bad about not treating their employees well when it comes to developing their games and everything. And like I think we're gonna see, unfortunately, like if they don't do something to fix it, we're gonna see Sony right here have an issue on their hands if they do not change the course or get somebody in to help Naughty Dog, because you can only stretch something so thin,
Yeah,
you can only stretch something so thin.
And I'm curious because in the article that Jason Schreier talked about, like he asked Neil Druckmann, and he's like, this remake thing, and he's like, well, a lot of their projects are still in pre-production, so apparently, like the only thing is Last of Us Factions. A lot of other things are in pre-production, so this remake gives them something to do for the next year. And I'm like, that sounds like busy work. What you could do is work on Factions, work on pre-production for these other items just to get new thoughts and new juice going, so you're not worn out by Last of Us content. And then after you're done with that, enough time will have passed to warrant a remake for the first game.
Yeah.
Like Sony, Sony is like we keep saying, Sony is much different this generation so far starting off than it were at the PS4 generation.
Yeah.
Like in the PS4 generations, they brought a lot of people gave them flack. If you want to be technical, Sony's great games didn't start until about a few years in, like 2016 with Uncharted 4. That's when it started really snowballing. But up until then, we had some one-offs like Order 66 or Order 1886. I almost said Order 66. That's Star Wars. And then Bloodborne. We had some games in between, but a lot of it were remake. Like the Uncharted trilogy was ported over, and we had a lot of other ports come over. That was to give them time. This is like them rushing now. They just want to repeat that formula because they saw success with it. It's like, hey, just redo it, just pump it out. And that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, and we saw with the last gen, like the beginning of the cycle, it was mostly third parties and indies that carried the platform, carried Sony to success, because that wasn't really a thing over at Xbox. But Xbox, on the other hand, they've been kind of lackluster the last few years, so they're about to smack it hard with all of these games that are going to be coming out because they bought so many studios and everything, and they've been working on it for a few years, so that their lineup is about to be bomb. Sony is scared. You could tell that from these actions. Again,
it's what I talked to in the pre-show. Like, Xbox has been playing the long game since Phil Spencer has taken over. Like, Phil Spencer had to cut the fat. Like, this is like Sony's cutting the fat for somewhat wrong reasons, or worrying to say relevant reasons. Xbox cut the fat because, hey, this does not work. My vision for Xbox does not warrant this. Let's get all these terrible ideas out of the way and focus on implementing this. And now you're starting to see it. Now, the only question I have for Xbox is, can they manage all these different studios releasing games at different times to make sure they don't overshadow one another, and make sure they're all profitable and successful? Sony, on the other hand, this is the first time, yes, Sony has been exposed in the past, especially in the PS3, they had a terrible launching off point with the PS3 being $600. They had the hacking, the online hack, the network hack in 2011, 2012, definitely exposed their infrastructure, but now they're getting exposed from a business standpoint of, hey, we have this plan, because after we've got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, we got Returnal in a couple weeks. We've got Horizon 2 Forbidden West. We've got God of War Ragnarok in the immediate future, and then sometime Gran Turismo 7 is sometime next year. But what about after that? Like, Sony's been setting up, like, from 2016 on, they set up games for like several years down the road. They don't put dates on them, but they put that feather in their cap and say, hey, here's what else we're doing. So it's worrisome for Sony. Like, they're so concerned with making sure that they stay relevant and keep on top and make blockbuster hits that they're not seeing the forest for the trees.
Yeah, I'm concerned. Like, I love Sony. I'm glad that we're now getting competition from the other two in their own way and everything. Microsoft's definitely put the heat on them because PlayStation Plus and PS Now and all of that, trying to compete with Xbox games with gold is usually bad, but Game Pass, like trying to compete with that. So they're definitely feeling the heat. And I just hope that the new leadership at Sony doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just trying to make stuff. But let's move on. Some more PS5 news, PlayStation news, tech updates, and hopeful projects. PS5 update out now adds external drive support. New HDR settings include off, always on, and on when supported. However, Disney Plus app does not work if set to the latter feature. Improved trophy functionality plus new features when viewing trophies. Still lacks super sampling support, however. The new PlayStation app features include an ability to join PS5 multiplayer and manage console storage. Sony is hiring for a head of mobile to bring PlayStation Studios to IP phones. Former God of War creator David Jaffe claims Sony is looking to counterpunch to Xbox's Game Pass.
A lot of unpacking that one too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
early quick hits.
Yeah, I know. But we still got plenty of quick hits too. Yeah. But no, like the external hard drive support, definitely now, I don't want to say it should have been there at launch, because I know it took Xbox a minute to add it as well, but this should have been like a 2-month ago thing. But we're not programmers. We don't look at data and ones and zeros. We don't know how things work together with the tech that's given us. So, it's glad that it's out now. The weird thing, Disney Plus doesn't work if you set it to the on when supported feature for the HDR settings. Is like, why just that app? But it's for me, I have a Disney Plus app, so I'm not going to turn on my HDR support anyway. So, what was it? There was going to be one. Oh, the trophy thing. So the trophy thing, I've got some things on that too. Is like, you can access screenshots and videos taken the moment you earn a trophy, and also choose which grade of trophy the system takes screenshots and videos for. But on top of that, when you select a hidden trophy, you can now press the square button to quickly show the hidden information rather than having to go right into each trophy and its details. The new updates to the system also include the ability to go directly to a game's trophy list from a trophy card by selecting Go to Trophies. And a key quality of life improvement is that once you have set a sort order for your trophies, they will now remain sorted in that order for all games. And when you sort them by rarity or earned date, the trophy cards will show the rarity of earned date information. The final update allows you to go directly to your trophies stats by pressing the square button on the trophy screen. And then, so a lot of interesting updates. Like, I like the quality of life improvements. Like, I know I used to be a trophy hunter. Not so much, like, I still like them, like, but I'm only like, we'll get them for games I enjoy. Yeah. Like, I only go for the platinum of like mainly PlayStation exclusives if they're accessible, but mainly games I really enjoy.
Yeah. One that stood out to me is Sony is hiring for head of mobile to bring PlayStation Studio IPs to phones. And I think that they saw the success of the Animal Crossing app, the Pokemon Go, even the Mario game that came out, like
Mario Run,
Final Fantasy having games and all of that on there. So there's so many successful IPs that have come from consoles to phones, and I think PlayStation is seeing that and like I'm really hoping. Okay, like I feel like I'm being a pessimistic about Sony and like their thought process, but it
Yeah.
feels like they're after the money, like hardcore right now, because
Right.
sales of the consoles aren't happening, which we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yep.
But it's like they're trying to make up for lost money by selling consoles in different
Yeah.
avenues and everything. I'm just curious to see, is this just going to be a quick cash grab? Is this going to be something
Yeah.
that's actually really thought out? Will it tie into other games, that sort of deal, or is this just just throwing stuff and seeing what sticks?
And I think this is twofold, right? Like, I think the first one is like you said, Nintendo, like they were the first ones to get into the mobile market, like bringing their IPs to the mobile market, and it's worked out for the better. For the most part, like they don't release them ad nauseum. They put them out when they put out what makes sense, and they put out what they feel is going to be a good idea. And then the other thing is like their direct competitor, Microsoft. Like, yes, they don't have Microsoft doesn't have as many original IP on Game Pass for cloud devices, but they have cloud devices where you can play Xbox quality games on your mobile device. And Sony sees that and it's like, hey, it's feasible for these AAA. Like, we don't have to port and I want to know what this is going to entail too, right? Like, is this going to entail like them porting games? Like, I don't think something like God of War is going to be maybe Horizon Zero Dawn is going to be feasible on mobile to an extent. But are they going to bring like original IP, but you use those properties that are known already on mobile? Or are they going to do more of like the cloud route where you can stream some, like we'll have original content on there, but we're also going to stream some big games on your mobile device as well?
I'm not sure how they're going to do it. Like, it'd be interesting to bring like some old IP, like Legends of Dragoon, like some old, RPGs and all of that kind of deal. It could be
Ape Escape.
Ape Escape. There's a ton of different ones that they could bring back and it just be, phone exclusive or whatever. But it is interesting that they're going that route for sure. Maybe,
and we'll get to it here in just a second, their new focus for their company, maybe their focus is for console, maybe they can take some of the niche or stuff like and put it on mobile. Maybe they can revive and see if it's worth visiting on console later in the future. That could be a twofold thing for them as well.
Yeah.
But going to the app real quick too, like like it said, you can join, or you can, the features include the ability to use the app to join a PS5 multiplayer game. And also, where did I read? It helps you manage your PS5 storage, compare trophies with your friends, and sort and filter products displayed on the PlayStation Store. So, because I know the PlayStation app, when they first launched it, it was terrible. So I'm glad to see that they're giving it. It's gotten better over time.
It's gotten better, but it's still kind of lackluster. Maybe this new version will be better or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely been kind of at best. One last thing I want to kind of point out. We've talked about it, and even Sony had mentioned it a few months ago, and then has backed off their counterpunch to the Game Pass and everything. And I think if they're really wanting to compete with Game Pass, they're going to have to do something. And I don't think it's that hard of a thing to do. Like, you already see the model set up. I don't think Sony is willing to pull the trigger on it, because if they do day and day like Xbox is, that is going to cut a lot of money out for Sony. But it also brings in guaranteed money each month that, someone that's like, okay, I've only got $60 to spend on one game, twice a year. That's some people's reality. And then there's, no shame in that. But it's like, or I could spend, $15 and I get access to a bunch of games, and I'd pay that each month. I could swing $15 a month instead of, $60. So, you'd get more people playing IPs, you'd get more people investing in stuff, but I don't think Sony is willing to take that loss or potential loss.
And see, then this has been back and forth, because, they addressed this beginning of the year, and then Jim Ryan comes out like a month or so ago and is like, yeah, we're not concerned with that. We're not concerned with that. That's not the forefront of our minds right now. And it's like, well, you kind of made it sound like it was serious, but now you're saying it's not. Which one is it? You're sending me mixed signals here.
It needs to be the forethought in your mind, because you're about to get demolished. Like,
yeah,
when it really comes down to it.
And whether people want to admit it or not, I understand there's people who love physical media. I get that. We both made the switch to all digital. That's where the future is heading. Yep. Whether people like it or not, there will always still be physical media. That's why retro stores exist. That's why pawn shops exist, for that retro feeling. But people who are like ho hum, like grumpy old man on the porch, like I don't want to do digital. They're going to be kicked, dragging and screaming into the future regardless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a quote, because David Jaffe spoke on this issue right now, like I put, and the quote reads, "I've said this time and time and again, that people who are writing Jim Ryan's obituary are way premature. We had the guy on our show yesterday, and that had made the petition to fire Jim Ryan. And I was like, dude, that's way premature, because Jim Ryan doesn't owe anybody. Sony doesn't owe anybody the truth about what's coming and what their counterpunch to Game Pass is. What I can tell you is, I know they are doing some stuff, because I know people at Sony who have told me that they are doing some stuff. There will be a response to Game Pass." So while there was some good stuff in that article, like maybe this is a little bit cart before the horse, only because it's David Jaffe. Like, he's a cool dude, made some really interesting games, but his last game was drawn to death, and it was a bomb.
Yeah.
They closed the servers within like the first year of the game being out, I want to say. Yeah. So maybe it's David Jaffe wanting to stay in Sony's good graces by saying this and being like, hey, I want to still work with you guys, give me another chance. At the same time, I wonder, like, it is kind of like snarkish to come off and be like, Sony doesn't owe you anything. Well, when you're in the situation you're in now, you kind of need to tell us something. Like, you don't have to give us this grand design. Like, don't be EA from from several E3s ago and just give us concepts and hopeful ideas. We don't need that again. But we do need to know that we need you to say something that gives us hope that there will be a competitor, that there will be something, like, even if it's not Game Pass, give us hope that, hey, we still have a future in the PS5.
Yeah, something. And I think we've seen it this generation. That's, if Sony doesn't want to talk about it, they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to say anything. And like, I don't want false hope, but I would like some communication. Like, instead
exactly.
We've got a lot more to get into. But I think they need to do better at their communication and making it gamer first instead of shareholder and their interest first. I think you can. We saw it in the PS4. You can do both and be very, very successful. Murdoch says my Ghost of Tsushima is physical. Yeah, like, I don't remember the last time I bought a physical game. But there is, like, just a quick caveat. There is a danger to only having digital, because they'll pull it off of stores and everything. Yeah. So there is a kind of a two-edged
It's give and take with everything.
Yeah. So moving on to more Sony news. Sony reportedly focused on big games for major developers and sidelining niche teams and experiences. I think, we've kind of hinted and touched at this one already. They're after known IPs. They're after things and developers that are known to come in and do well. You've got Media Molecule with Dreams and everything. It took them so long, and I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin, was Media Molecule. It taking so long, and it finally releases, and then it doesn't really sell very much. So they're fine with having
the ROI did not justify it.
Exactly. They're fine with having third parties, coming in, these smaller indie developers doing those kind of experiences, but I don't think they're going to be funding that sort of deal. You even think about it was at Sony Japan being like brought in to help other teams and all of that. So we're seeing that already, and this is just kind of confirming it.
Yeah, and I got an article on that too. It's like The news comes in wake of the company's plans to restructure Japan studio, which has seen many developers leave the studio who worked on the likes of Gravity Rush, Bloodborne, and Everybody's Golf. According to the article, Sony has informed studios that it is no longer interested in producing smaller titles with limited success outside of Japan. Obviously, this is very disappointing, as Sony is known for championing indie developers and niche titles during the PS4 era.
Yeah, I like, you can see the writing on the walls. I think, again, like, they are willing to have, indie developers on the console and everything. But you see a lot of indie developers went from trying Steam and PlayStation 4 to go into the Switch.
Game Pass.
Yeah.
And Game Pass.
And they're seeing major success because people are on those consoles and wanting those experiences. But Sony is seeing, hey, people want these big story games. They're wanting stories told to them. So they're definitely doing this. This next little story is very weird to me. Sony invests another $200 million into Epic Games to develop their partnership. Why in the world does Epic Games need more money?
I know. Like, I've got the article pulled up too. It's like Epic Games has announced that it just raised another $1 billion in funding, with Sony investing $200 million into the game developer and publisher. The investment comes on top of the $250 million Sony already invested, saying this strategic investment is described as building on their already close relationship and, quote, reinforces the shared mission to advance the state of the art in technology, entertainment, and socially connected online services. That says to me, like, I don't think Sony's going to buy Epic Games. Like, I think Epic Games is too, like, it's like them buying Rockstar. Like, Rockstar has printed money. Epic Games has printed money. I don't think they'll ever sell to somebody. I think this is like wanting to reaffirm maybe an exclusive partnership, like saying, oh, we'll bring any of this content first to PlayStation or this or that. But correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Sony have a thing where they showed off Epic's new engine?
No, Epic showed off their own engine.
Okay, I forget if it was sponsored by Sony or if it was Epic, but regardless, maybe Sony pumped money into the tech for their new engine, and this is like maybe, I don't know. They wanting to do a partnership because Sony, for good or for bad, they're chasing where the money is right now. Like, obviously, they got exclusive, stuff with GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. That they had their exclusive partnerships, even though Rockstar has said, we're profitable already. We don't need to sell ourselves to anybody. But they want to have some exclusive deals. And I think they're wanting to do this with Epic because they see the turnover Epic has every freaking year. Yeah. And they're like, we want a piece of that pie. We want to be able to come and say, hey guys, we got you.
Yeah, I think, it's also, they see it could be, okay, we're going to invest in your engine, and, we get to use your engine for free. We get to use your engine in propriety because we invested in it, and all of our studios have access to this engine. Because you think about Guerrilla, they developed their own engine for Horizon Zero Dawn. All of these different companies have different engines that they work on, but how fast would development be if everybody worked on Unreal Engine 5? Everybody worked on that, and we can move you from studio to studio, whatever we need to get covered. And you're just working on Unreal Engine 5. You're not working on anything, any engine that would make the transitions longer. I can definitely see that. Plus, Epic, like you said, is printing money. So I'm not really sure what this means, but it was very interesting to just see Sony invest $200 million into Epic. I'm like, my Lord. Like,
I know.
It's not like Epic's going under anything like that. But let's move on to our next story. We're going to kind of move through this so we can get to our burning discussion. We got a new segment this week, guys. London Studios' next game is a new IP for PlayStation 5 with multiplayer features. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart news is on the way with plans in place for reveals, which I'm excited for. I am really excited for Rift Apart. And then Sucker Punch job listing reveals developer is working on a spectacular multiplayer game with co-op.
Yep.
Now, Sucker Punch, were they the ones that developed Spider-Man? Or no, that was Insomniac.
No, that's Insomniac.
Okay. What was Sucker Punch's last game?
You're playing it.
Oh. I don't know. I guess I red herringed the spectacular. I thought, oh, this is Spider-Man.
I know. So the reveals for Ratchet and Clank, I think they're going to delve more because we haven't really seen a meaty gameplay of it for a while now. So I think it's time before launch. We're less than 2 months away from the launch, so it's about time. The London IP, they're thinking about it's going to be PvE, is what I'm reading, like PvE co-op multiplayer. Which it's interesting. London's like the new Studio Japan. Like they make an amalgam of different things. Like their last game was Blood and Truth, which is a really good VR game. Like arguably one of the better VR games out there. I wonder if it'd be funny because we saw Astrobot go from VR to a PlayStation to a console game. I wonder if they're going to do the same thing with Blood and Truth, but it's going to be interesting. They're working on a multiplayer IP. And then Sucker Punch, it's interesting that they're working on a multiplayer. Like Ghost of Tsushima 2 is still happening, obviously. Like that's going to be in the cards, but I think when they found the success of Legends doing as well as it did, they're thinking, hey, maybe we can be the new multiplayer because that was Guerrilla for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then they went to the route of Horizon Zero Dawn. But I'm seeing a theme here too. They're bringing back multiplayer as a functioning thing. So Sony did the first party and it's like, hey, we've got that down. We're still going to do that. But I wonder if they're going to dip their toe back into the multiplayer space with all these battle royales and seeing Fortnite doing what it's doing and Apex. So I wonder if they're going to try and get back into the multiplayer side of things too.
Yeah, it feels like it because there's a lot of money in multiplayer. It brings out more longevity into the game, so people aren't selling them. They're in there. Hopefully, we don't see microtransactions in first-party games. DLC like is one thing, that sort of deal. But if it's like season passes and all of that, like I don't want to see that. But I'm not over it. Dan says Sly Cooper.
Yeah, Sucker Punch did do Sly Cooper as well. It was Ghost is their latest one, then it was Infamous, and then Sly Cooper before that.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see what it is. They could I don't know how Infamous would work. Like if they didn't say new IP. It's a spectacular multiplayer game. So it could be
it could Sly
be
Cooper Battle Royale.
There you go. Killing it. I never played Sly Cooper. I don't know anything about that. But yeah, like the idea of like doing more multiplayer and everything is interesting. And yeah, let's move on. Nintendo president warns of possible Switch stock issues in 2021 due to semiconductor shortage, but reveals new blue Switch live color for May 21st. That makes total sense. And then, then we had the Indie World Showcase highlight. Fez is out now. TMNT Shredder's Revenge is coming later this year. Ali World coming this winter, and Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals is coming this fall. I know the Indie Showcase happened this week. Fez was like one of those games.
Yeah.
Like it's a big game, but it's also it's old. Like it's old.
Yeah. Like I know they had to have a big ticket item, especially in Out Now, but this coming in 2021 when the game came out in like the 2010s, I want to say.
Yeah, Fez is
past due.
Yeah, let's see. When Fez game. I'm trying to see when it was released.
I want to say 2010, 2011.
Yeah, it was, and there's even a Fez 2. It's like we're not going to bring both of them.
That's even weirder.
Yeah, April for the Xbox 360 was April 13th, 2012. That was the first.
Oh wow, okay.
First version of it was in 2012. So that's a long time ago. Like interesting gameplay, but we've seen that already done again and again and again now and everything. And Dan says Oxenfree was a very trippy game. Never played Oxenfree. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Oh yeah. Same. I need to play. I think it's on Game Pass, but
this story brings us into our new segment, everybody, called Burning Discussions. And what we're going to do in this segment is we're going to talk about a big concept that will affect gaming as a whole. And today's burning discussion, we won't always have one of these in each show, but when there's something burning that we want to talk about, we're going to bring it in. So today's burning,
like Jim Rome is burning.
Yes. Our burning discussion will parts shortages cause developers to focus on last gen consoles for upcoming games due to a small install base on the new consoles? Because right now people cannot get their hands on new consoles because of superconductors not being available. This includes
GPU parts,
the Xbox, the PlayStation, now the Switch, all have issues with trying to get these parts, and they're only $1. We talked about this last week and everything. So I presented this to Derek. Will this part shortage cause developers to focus on developing games that they are currently developing for the new gen? Will they have to shift focus to be able to make ends meet? Or will their development cycles be long enough that they're not having to worry about that? So, Derek, what are your thoughts on this?
So, it's interesting, right? Like, the Switch obviously has an install base already. PS5 and Series X don't. Like, they have an install base. Like, I read something this morning, like PS5 is the fastest selling console, both by units sold and dollars made so far that it's out, even though you can't find them except on the internet right now. But it's one of those where I don't think from a development standpoint, like if you're already like Horizon Forbidden West and like when Miles Morales before it came out, right? They're both coming to PS4 and PS5. Like if you're already doing that, great. I don't think, because we saw so many stories last generation, right, of developers wanting to make games like Dying Light, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, Mad Max. I'm forgetting one. But there were other games that they wanted to port on last gen, but because of their ambitions on the new tech, they had to scale and either cancel it or change some stuff. Like Dying Light and Mad Max last gen versions had to be canceled because they were just a buggy mess. And Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, their whole thing was built on the Nemesis system for next gen, but because they couldn't get to work on last gen, they took the best feature of the freaking game out on PS3 and 360. So I don't think, if you're already hot and heavy into development with the tech on PS5 and Series X, I don't think it behooves you to go back and backtrack and try and scale down the game for last gen. Like if you're already making a version of the game for both last gen and current gen, do your thing. All for it. Kudos, because you're already in that environment. But I don't think Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart can go back now and make a PS4 version. I just don't think that can happen.
Yeah, and I understand that. For me, it is a question of, are these developers, these publishers, willing to put out a game and it not sell like they're wanting it to sell at the very beginning, and then wait for enough consoles to get in the hands to be able to make that money back? Or do they want to either try to get a version on last gen or extend development time to where there are more consoles out, so there's more of the game, there's more features in the game, there's more polish on it? There are two different options, because I'm not sure how many consoles have been sold of Xbox Series S and X or PlayStation 5, but we're at a point where there's very small numbers. You know, I'd probably say, okay, for both of them, there's probably 10 million units out in the wild. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S. That's not very much when you think of 100+ million of PlayStation 4s and probably 80 million, I'm being nice here, of Xbox Ones and the various versions of that.
Yeah.
If I'm making a game And it's like, okay, I'm going to be able to sell to 10 million people. Or if you're first party, half of that. I'm going to be like, oh, wow, okay, we're definitely cutting our knees off right here. Our legs off at the knees right here, because we're only going to be able to sell to so many people. How do we get this to be able to sell to more people? And it could be Sony's already been doing this where they're putting games out on PC. It could be, okay, until we get more PS5s out there, we're going to do a day and day of, you can get this on the PS5 or you can play it on the PC, just to be able to make money. Because we already see Xbox doing it where, day and day it's on Xbox and PC. I think that might be the way to get around it, where you're not having to backtrack and put it on older consoles, which the older consoles can do a lot, but there's such a leap in technology, just like Derek was saying, for the new consoles, that it's going to be hard to go back. Or this is another option. They could continue developing games that are, but they could have another team, just like Naughty Dog, develop a game for the current situation, or make remasters, remakes, or whatever. We could see an influx of remakes in the next year or so, because people are not wanting to put out these games to a small audience and not make as much money. Because the part shortage is an issue for sure.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I think that's a nice middle ground. But see, is putting games on PC day and date with the launch of the game, and I know third parties do this for the most part. You have your Capcoms who put out the PC version of like Monster Hunter World like months after the console version, but it's a slippery slope, because Sony, right? And see, this is where business politics get into this, right? Because business politics, like if you have an Activision and EA, they want to make money like yesterday. They want to make money hand over fist immediately. And if they can't do that, they're going to start rolling heads for the worst. And doing some dumb decisions that are not going to be consumer friendly. Whereas Sony, Sony's now Xbox, they don't care. It's like, hey, we have all these platforms, Game Pass is integrated in all these things, play it wherever. We're going to make money one way or another. Some people have already set up themselves for success, but not everyone has that luxury, right? And yes, there is 100 million, and I think third parties are going to be more likely to go to these studios and be like, hey, we know you're working on this for this console, but we need you to make an old port, because we need to make money now. We need to make some money. There's 100 million of these old consoles out here. We got to make money somehow if the PS5s and Series X's are not going to be able to ramp up production in the near future. Now, and that's going to suffer because you see, like, just on the PS5, right? Like the SSD and like all the tech that's in there, how easier it is to, like, load times are pretty much non-essential now, or a non-factor. How easy it is to develop and make their features that they've been wanting to make in some of their games for years are now possible. So you don't want to hamper or tie your hands by going old gen and working on old tech, and that means you have to neuter some of the best parts of your game. That's not what you need to do. But it's also a two-pronged thing, because obviously no one knew how severe this was going to be. We're only now finding out the issue in these last several weeks with why consoles can't hit the market fast enough. But Sony and Microsoft cut themselves off at the knees beforehand by saying, hey, we're going to stop production on these models of Xbox Ones and PS4s, like, and Switch now, like, they said, we're stopping 3DS. Now the Switch's profit is like, why do we need two handheld-centric consoles? We're just going to make one, and then now they have the Switch Lite out. Like, you can't, what are they going to do? Go back and make games for the 3DS? Heck no. And you can't even find a Wii U now. But, PS4, they're not doing the original or the Pro. The Xbox is not doing the original or the One X. They're just doing the Xbox One S and the PS4 Slim. And good luck finding those, because, when we have consoles, it's like a handful. But I can't tell you how many calls we get a day, let alone a week, of do we have consoles X, Y, and Z? And we have to tell them no. They can't make them fast enough to meet up with demand. So even if you do it on last gen and people don't have, they either sold their console with the hopes of getting a next gen, or they just haven't upgraded their console in a while or haven't gotten to gaming for a while and want to buy a new one. What are you going to do? You can't find a console regardless of any gen.
Yeah, I think, you know, we're in that kind of like place of, you know, it's not the best situation regardless.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, you're gonna see some interesting ways of going about this from the various companies. I think Xbox has definitely got themselves set up real nice and happy right now, with the way
Oh, yeah.
they've got, you know, xCloud, Game Pass, all of that is already set up. Switch, you know, we've talked about PlayStation and Xbox a lot.
Mhm.
Switch, I think, you know, they've been outselling both consoles for months. So there are a ton
Yeah.
of Switches out there. You know, a lot of households have more than one Switch, because they want to play Animal Crossing and have their own island and
Yeah.
everything. But, you know, I think Switch is in a good place. Like you've got the multi, you know, function where you can play more
Mhm.
games with more people and all of that. So I don't think, you know, Switch is going to be in the bad here because they've got one unit. You know,
Yeah.
they're not split between two console generations. Yes, they have the Lite and the regular Switch and everything, but they function
Mhm.
the same, essentially.
Yeah.
So, you know, even if there are shortages, it's not going to be
Mhm.
detrimental because, you know, they will still be able to put games out on that console, unlike
Right.
PlayStation and Xbox, where they are splitting
Yeah.
generations. It makes it so much harder. So I think Switch is
Yeah.
going to continue to dominate in this time for sure.
And see, I mean, well, and for the immediate future till they run out, right? Because that's the thing. Like, and we see two different sides to this. Like Nintendo, like they're getting ahead of the curve and be like, hey, we're having a hard time getting semiconductors. We're probably going to face a shortage here in the coming months.
Mhm.
Get ready, guys. This is so. Whereas Sony and Microsoft, they're now only answering it because they get hounded probably every day about when are you putting out more consoles? When are we going to find one? When are you going to have enough for everybody to buy? And they finally come out and say, look, this is the issue. We're having a problem with this right now. Technically, it's out of our hands, but this is it. Like they had to pretty much get their teeth pulled to tell us this. Whereas Nintendo's coming out from the get go and be like, hey, we realize there's issues with these two over here. We're going to have issues too, but we're letting you know ahead of time. We're not going to wait till the other shoe is already dropped.
Yeah.
And it's weird too, right? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you know, and that's to Nintendo's like a plus on their side. Like they're being very transparent instead of just waiting until, you know, everything hits the fan. You know, they're showing people respect, and that's one thing that, you know, Nintendo is really good at, is showing respect.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it's definitely you know, and definitely speaks to how far Nintendo's come since, you know, the Wii U days in terms of like giving stuff that people want. But it's ironic too, right? Like you know, the Switch Lite had just launched in 2019. Then in 2020, they announced the coral pink color, and then the pandemic happened. And then the Switch Lite, the coral pink launched, and then that was when the whole world shut down and you couldn't find parts for anything. So because everywhere overseas was shut down, they weren't shipping anything in or out of their countries. So you couldn't find Switches then. And now they announced a new blue color Switch Lite, and now it's like, hey, there's going to be a part shortage, so get them while they're hot.
Yeah. It's very strange, the timing and everything. Amy says, yeah, honesty and transparency is always better. 100% agree, because you know, if you're upfront with people, they can handle it. They can be adults about it. You know, they might moan and complain, but if you're not just, hey, this is what's going on, you know, we're trying to fix it, then people will get angry. It's like, why are you doing this? It's the unknown. So it gets more combative and hostile, because it's like, why are you doing this to us?
The phrase "don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining" comes to mind, you know. But now this speaks to, because granted, Nintendo, I think, is, you know, tried to keep this, you know, under wraps. They haven't officially confirmed it, but now what does this mean for the supposedly rumored Switch Pro? Because that a lot of the rumors are pointing to it's going to come this fall. Like, how will this shortage affect that?
I'm curious as well on that. You know, hey, you know, we can't make the Switch Pro this year because of parts. You know, like, don't even give an announce date. Don't be smart about this and be like, hey, we want to put out the Switch Pro, but we know there are going to be shortages and issues manufacturing, and it will take parts away from the regular Switch, process and everything. We just want to get consoles in hand. And what they could do is they could just start stockpiling Switch Pros, and get a very large amount of them and be like, okay, once we hit this number in production, we will release the Switch Pro.
Yeah.
Instead of like having a small batch and then doing these bursts and everything. I got an email from GameStop. I think it was Wednesday. It was like, oh, we got PlayStation 4s and Xbox One S or Xbox S and X's. I go to the website, nothing on there at all. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, I didn't even see the option to buy like even a bundle. It was
they go that fast though, from what I've been reading, right? Like people tell me like they'll get on there the moment and then it's gone within like less than 30 minutes.
No, like the listing wasn't even up there. Like it was as soon as the email came in, I'm like, what are you even talking about? So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not even sure on that. But I think, we are in a position where I think third-party developers are going to be real smart about this. First party are definitely going to have to make some decisions, maybe even put some of these smaller developers or bigger developers where they can cut half the team into doing something else, doing a remaster, a remake, something to continue to get games bought. Because I think a lot of people are at the point where it's like, hey, we want games, but there's nothing coming out.
Which Sony going ahead and saying this is another thing that just popped in my head too. Is like smaller developers and remakes. What happened last gen? Like, granted, we weren't in a part shortage. Like when it first came out, you couldn't find consoles, but about February, March, they started rolling in again. That doesn't look like the best case scenario people are pointing to is June, that people get consoles in store again. After all this has come out over the last couple of weeks, I'm not going to hold my breath for June. Maybe the fall, but at this point. But no, it goes back to what Sony specifically. Like, I know Xbox came out with first parties hot and heavy in the beginning, but then kind of tampered off. Like, obviously when Phil Spencer took over, but it kind of hampered in between. But Sony, what buttered their bread until the first party games started rolling out? Remakes or ports and indie games. And now they've already put themselves in a corner by saying we're only focusing on major things, major publishers, major developers, major IP. We're not worried about niche or basically gimmicks, essentially. And it's like, so you're telling me that pretty much what's going to come out over the next couple months are going to be mainly indie games and remakes for the foreseeable future, like with a few major first parties sprinkled in over the time. You're saying you're not going to focus on that. Why? You have now painted yourself into a corner, Sony, and now you're screwed.
Yeah, I think they're going to be eating some crow for a while.
Yeah,
and I think we're going to see it shift a lot in favor of the Switch and over to Microsoft, and PlayStation is going to be playing catch up on this generation. And I, being a Sony fanboy, I can't even remember the
Sony pony,
like being a Sony pony and everything. It's kind of sad, but it's like, if your management is this focused on something and they're making these decisions, you can't do anything about that. And when you got somebody like Phil Spencer that is bending over backwards to make the Xbox, like the Xbox, the place, not just the console, but they're evolving beyond the console. They are now a brand at this point. And that's amazing. That's amazing. Sony, on the other hand, they want people to buy their consoles.
And going back to real quick, what you posed about, will developers go back and make games for the last gen consoles? Here's the thing that I just thought of too, that is going to be a double-edged sword. What if like Sony and Microsoft and them are telling developers who haven't even announced their games yet and who are just now on pre-production to, hey, you might want to consider going on last gen. What if that game doesn't come out for like 3-4 years? And by then, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the rest of this year, right? But let's just say hypothetically, best case scenario, PS5s and Series X's are plentiful. Like you can go into a store any day of the week, any time of the day, and buy one, and it'll be there. What if they waste all those resources making a game for last gen and anticipating that this is going to be on for a while, and then they're plentiful, and now they just wasted that, and no one buys for the last gen now?
Yeah, it's it's something that they've got to definitely think about. If it's going to be in production that long, I think it's a waste of time. If it's something that they can quickly turn around, not make trash and turn it out, but like if it's something that they can develop in a year and a half, hey, do it.
Yeah,
do it.
Yeah.
If it's something that it's not easy as flipping a switch. Like no development is that easy.
No.
But if you can develop something quickly and get it out, I think this is the time to do it. And I think a lot of indie developers are going to start seeing success because they're putting out games and people are looking to play stuff. That's just clear. They're looking to play stuff. They're even going back to old games. Like Among Us blew up during the pandemic and it had been out for years. Same thing with Fall Guys. It had been out for a while and it blew up as well. So there are things out there, and I think the first parties are going to have the harder time out of anything.
Yep.
Especially Sony. I think Sony is going to struggle the most out of all of this.
Yep.
But guys, there is our burning discussion for the week. And if you've got a topic you want us to discuss during burning discussion, you can go and put it down in the chat, or you can go over to Patreon and give it there. Patreon.com/nerdcade. We're fixing to get into the quick hits with Derek, guys.
We're not done yet, guys.
We're not done yet. We're an hour and 23 minutes in just to the show. So we've been going for a while, but the quick hits are fixing to happen. So let's go, Derek. Let's do it.
All right. So first off, it's going to be a mix of positive and negative news in the quick hits. First off, Deathloop has been delayed from May 21st to September 14th. So not that bad of a delay, but if you're expecting it, kind of cutting it close there by being it a month out before release originally. IO Interactive reportedly working on a new IP in addition to Hitman 3 and James Bond. Resident Evil Village will have performance and graphics mode to optimize experience. Super Meat Boy Forever hits PlayStation and Xbox consoles today. Neo: The World Ends With You, the sequel to the cult hit The World Ends With You, out July 27th. The rumor a Metal Gear IP is being licensed out by Konami, which we've heard that a while back, like they were considering outsourcing several of their IP with Castlevania and Silent Hill. Age of Empires 4 is set to release this fall. Sonic Colors Remastered is seemingly leaked. Ubisoft shutting down servers for this year for Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2, and then Ghost Recon Future Soldier. Play now as Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn in Fortnite. That was she technically launched yesterday, but you can play her now. First ever Oculus Gaming Showcase to take place April 21st. That is this upcoming Thursday. Also this upcoming Thursday, COD Warzone's Nuke event to take place. Overwatch League to bring back live events this summer. Apex Legends hits 100 million players as their new milestone. Good for them. Xbox Game Pass adds Alexa support to remotely download games. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Wrath of the Druids DLC has been delayed until May 13th. Wasteland 3 DLC, The Battle of Steeltown, is going to be out June 3rd. Ubisoft Forward is set for June 12th during E3. So it's going to be a packed week because the PC Gaming Showcase already said that they're going to take place that same week during E3. Mass Effect Legendary Edition will have a photo mode when the game launches. Immortals Phoenix Rising Lost Gods DLC out April 22nd. That is a few days. No, that is so the COD and that's next Thursday. The COD and the Oculus events are this upcoming Wednesday. Excuse me. Battlefield 6 may not launch for PS4 and Xbox One. And lastly, Genshin Impact releases on PS5 on April 28th, less than 2 weeks from now.
There you go, guys. There are the quick hits. Just wanted to kind of touch on a few of these real quick before we wrap up the show. Ubisoft shutting down Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2, and Ghost Recon Future Soldier. Those are old games. Those are like those are.
I'm
Xbox
surprised they kept up
360
service
games.
Yeah,
So
and when I read this, I'm like, these games came out like early 2000s, like late 2000s, early 2010s. It's like you still keep the servers running. Like, how big was the player base for that you just now decided to do? That's weird.
I know Vegas was like a huge game for them. I'm very shocked Ghost Recon Future Soldier was still alive.
Me too.
I was not expecting that. And then we kind of hinted at the Metal Gear IP being licensed by Konami. How interesting would it be if Capcom took over the Metal Gear license?
Wow. That would be huge, right? Like, or no, even better, like, because they want to do with like the Stealth Spy. Well, I know they're working on a new IP, but IO Interactive is like, what if they eventually got the Metal Gear, since they're good with stealth?
Yeah.
So,
or I had one. I thought of this in the shower this morning. What if Kojima, working with Microsoft gets the license to Metal Gear, and Kojima does the next Metal Gear?
Like, I don't know who you would facepalm harder for, like Konami, because it's like, oh man, we can't escape him, or Kojima be like, I can't escape this franchise.
I highly doubt that that would happen, but that would be hilarious. That would be hilarious that they get the IP, and then they like, it's nowhere in the contract that Kojima can't touch it. So
I know,
that would be, I would laugh so hard. Murdoch says a lot of old world countries still play older games. Yep. I know there's a huge market for like nostalgia games and all of that. So
I know what was it up until like, I think FIFA 14 was like the last FIFA game they were making on PlayStation 2.
Wow.
Yeah, that's because people in like Europe and overseas countries like still play FIFA heavily on PS2 apparently.
I know PS2, like that console, that's the god console right there for sure.
I know.
Crazy. All right, guys. Well, there you go. There is all the nerdy news that you need to know with me and Cheeky Monkey Jackson.
There you go.
Guys, if you want to support the show, go over to patreon.com/nerdcave. Go support us over there. Toss us a few dollars, just like Brandon Hicks, Richard Newell, Daniel Sanford, Marilyn James, Martin Sager, and Brittany Harrison did over there, supporting us. Helps keep the lights on. You can also follow us on Twitch. You can sub to us over there as well. Use your Prime Gaming, guys. It's totally free. And you can watch us over on youtube.com/nerdcave network. If you don't catch us live, you can check us out there, guys. We're so thankful that you came and hung out with us today. We'll be live next week, and come and join us then. Or you can watch us over on YouTube. And you can find all of these little segments broken up over on TikTok. Yeah. Derek's going to be doing his dances with his crop top polo
with the belly button tassel.
With the belly button tassel. Guys, we love y'all. Y'all have a blessed week. This has been Zach
and Cheeky Monkey Jackson.
Y'all have a blessed week. Bye.